$99 Canon zoom lens, straight out of the 90s. This thing covers 28 to 135 millimeters. And it's checking a lot of boxes for me, so let's dive into it. I've said it before, and I'm gonna say it again. Don't sleep on these older lenses on newer cameras. With a solid adapter, the EF mount lenses are still a great option to consider. A lot of these older ones are very budget friendly, and they also got a little bit of a look to them. They add a little bit of character to your shots. And I actually like masking in blurs and vignettes and adding them film-like features to make shots look more cinematic, so it's kind of cool to see what I can get out of these things. So I've been looking for a lens that would cover a decent amount of zoom range while I'm out doing the run and gun thing. Something lightweight that gives me a decent amount of wide angle, but also can punch in on stuff pretty good. And I also like having a cheaper used lens because most of what I'm shooting is outdoors, and that allows me to get all up in the crack of the action without too much concern for the dirt, snow, water that might be coming my way. What's that bird doing back? Dude, these birds are going nuts back here. And I usually have some kind of action camera with me. I mean, they're just so tiny. I throw one in the pocket, and that covers me if I need a wide angle or fisheye type look. So this lens being on my main camera, it's just about perfect when it's starting out at 28 millimeters and gives me just a little bit of wide angle, and then I'm still able to punch all the way into 135 millimeters. I considered just getting another Canon 24-105 L series, which I think I've owned about 3 of those lenses over the years, and it's a good lens, but I found this thing at Kenmore Camera used for $99, did a quick search, saw other people reviving this old lens with newer cameras. Results didn't look bad, so I popped over there, grabbed it, and figured, let's check it out. It is a 3.5 to 5.6 variable aperture, so it's not a super fast lens and it doesn't let in a lot of light, but I'm outside shooting in natural lighting, so that's not a big issue for me. If anything, I'm more interested in shooting wide open to get as much blur in the background as possible. And luckily, I already have this 2 to 8 stop variable ND filter that fits the threading, and when I go zoom all the way in at 5.6, I get some decent bokeh. All right, so I've already mentioned a few things, but here's a few notes that I put into a list of the goods and the bads of getting this lens. If it's worth it to go through the process of tracking down a decent used one, and if it's dependable and worthy enough of even throwing it in the camera bag at all. So we'll start with the goods. It's lightweight and compact with a good focal range. I mean, 28 to 135 millimeters without feeling much weight or taking up much space, that's a big one to me. Another big one is how cheap it is. I got mine for $99 in pretty good condition. And it's not just that I like paying very little money for a new lens, but I also think there's like a subliminal mind state of being more carefree when you're out in nature shooting. It allows for a little more creativity. And as far as creativity goes, another thing that I consider to be good, which is debatable, is that it gives a little bit of a vintage look, which could be a negative if you're trying to get the cleanest, sharpest image. One final thing on the goods list, before we go into the bads, is that it shoots macro. I have very little experience shooting macro, but I did bust out a few photos, and I like having the option of being able to get up in there. All right, now the bads. There's a couple things to mention, but honestly, there's only one thing that really stands out that bugs me. It's that when I zoom in or out, there's gnarly flashes of exposure. When I first noticed it in editing, I just assumed that I must have been shooting wide open at 28 millimeters, which is f3.5. And then when I was zooming into 135 millimeters, it was making the lens automatically shift to an f5.6. This is not the case. This thing just gives me these lighter or darker flashes of exposure when I zoom in or out, no matter what aperture I'm at. And I think it's just because it's an older photography lens and it's just not at all intended for smooth video zooms. When I first noticed it in editing and realized it wasn't from the variable aperture, my mind immediately thought I should just pick up another Canon 24-105 L series. I don't ever remember seeing that from that lens, so if you're planning on zooming during your shots, that's something to consider. But if you're fine with just shooting at a fixed focal length, won't even affect you. I very rarely manually zoom while I'm filming. Another issue I've noticed is that the autofocus does struggle a bit to lock on sometimes. It's very rare when that happens, and I actually almost threw autofocus on the goods list because it's a lens from the 90s, working with a newer camera through an adapter, and it really does work pretty good most of the time. The last negative thing to consider about this lens, and I'm sure this doesn't come as a big surprise, is that it isn't amazingly sharp. It's not bad, and I actually do like the look, but it's just not going to be as crisp as a newer high-end lens. But the chromatic aberration is almost non-existent, which should definitely be on the goods list. So that's it for now. The fact that I picked it up a few months ago and I continually throw it in my bag tells you that yes, I do think it's worth using if you're looking for a lightweight lens with good focal range and you're able to find a good price on one in decent condition, go for it. All right, I hope this helps. If it does, subscribe to the channel, follow along for more. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.